All right, here we go. I was waiting for that lady to tell me how to go. Recording started, she said. Right. Welcome to my office. It's fantastic to see so many of you from all around the world. To those of you from anything like my time zone in Europe, then good afternoon. And to those of you who are joining me from Mexico or the States or anywhere in the North and South American continents, then good morning. And to the rest of you joining me from other places around the world, then you must have set an alarm to get up to watch me, which is very gratifying, so thank you very much for joining me. I find webinars a bit odd because I'm used to standing in a room full of lots of people, and instead I sit in my office on my own, staring into a camera, talking into a microphone, and I'm keen to try and explore the more interactive elements of doing webinars. Up to now, I've done a bunch of webinars, but they've largely been me talking to camera. And I'm going to be doing a fair amount of that today. But I'd also like to try and get a bit more interactivity going. I've got a couple of polls that just for us to warm up and get a sense of what kind of levels of experience we've got. But also at one point, I'm going to try and put you all into groups. This software, the Blackboard Collaborate software, calls it breakout rooms. So I'm going to try and put you into breakout rooms, get you to discuss something amongst your group, and then I'm going to bring you back into the main room. I've never done it before, but I'm fairly confident, because the problem is with this webinar software, I need a couple of hundred people with me to practice. So we're going to be doing some things together, some group work, and if anything goes wrong, then just log back in and we'll get back up to speed. I just want to quickly tell you where I am. You've all mentioned the places where you are around the world. I'm here in the UK. This is a satellite picture of the UK. It looks like a very clear day, which it isn't really today. And at the moment, I'm in my office in my hometown of Bolton, which is in the northwest of England. You can see it there. And that's what the county looks like, the county of Greater Manchester. And there's the town of Bolton on the map of Greater Manchester. Now, where I live, let's see if I can point to where I live. I actually live about there. Right now, I'm in my office, which is about there. Now, this whole area from Manchester to Liverpool was built on the back of the cotton industry. In fact, Bolton was really a centre where Flemish weavers settled in the 15th century. And so it's had a long tradition of textiles and cotton. The cotton came really in the 19th century, over from America to the port of Liverpool, and then along the Manchester Ship Canal from Liverpool to various towns along the way where it got processed eventually into markets in Manchester. These are typical kind of images of the cotton mills that still exist around here, but the ones that still exist have largely been converted into apartments. And I'm very proud of the fact that this guy here on the right is my grandfather. That's my mum's dad when he worked in a cotton mill. Bolton today there's no textile industry left in any of the northwest of England as far as I'm aware. Bolton today is a vibrant, modern shopping and retail centre, and we've got a football team. Not doing as well as they once did, but we've got a football team. Okay, so that's where I am. I want to talk about life skills. And I'm going to do it in the context of a course that I've been involved in called Mind. And in particular, I'm going to be looking at the digital aspect, Mind Online, and show you some of the features there that feed into what we want to do with life skills. First of all, Caroline mentioned the poll button. I want to do a couple of polls just to get us warmed up. All right, so first of all, is this your first webinar? So could you please click on the poll button, yes or no? Good. Excellent. Okay, that's about 100 of you have clicked so far. So it looks like roughly for a fifth of you, it's your first webinar. For 4/5 of you, it's not your first webinar. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to explore this webinar software a little bit further than I have done up to now is because I think webinars are a key part of this whole area of life skills and our professional development. They're becoming more and more common, and in some ways I love them because it means I can stay at home more with my 4-year-old daughter instead of having to travel too far. But on the other hand, I think we do need to all get better at using the software, both as presenters and as participants. Okay, thank you very much. So I'm just going to clear that poll. So stop voting on that one, please. I'm going to clear that one, and I'm going to go to my next one. Are you using the Mind series at the moment? So if you're using Mind, click yes. If you're not, click no, please. Okay, so it's looking like the overwhelming majority of you are not using Mind. About 1/10 of you, maybe. Okay, great. There's some annoying noise. No, I think I've stopped it. Okay, that just gives me a sense of how familiar you might be with some of the aspects. The Mind series, the lower levels are called Open Mind and the upper levels are called Mastermind. So we use the term the Mind series to refer to the whole thing. The Mind series has 6 levels, going from Essentials, which is a kind of half-level foundation level, up to through Open Minds 1, 2, and 3, and up to Masterminds 1 and 2. There you can see how they map onto the CEF. And it's a series for young adults. Now, who are these people? Well, they're people who at the moment are aged approximately 18 to 25. That's the core group that the whole series is aimed at. And that means they were born between 1988 and 1995. Now, you'll see various terms used to refer to this group. I just want to show you some of them. Because I think if you look at the kind of terms, you can begin to draw out some common elements. They're sometimes known as Generation Y, that generation that followed Generation X. The Echo Boomers. These are the children of the baby boom generation who the echo bit refers to leaving home and then coming back home because they can't afford to live independently. The Millennials, the group who came to awareness, came to take an interest in events through and beyond the millennium. Generation Next, again, a play on the idea of Generation X. The Next generation, the generation who grew up with the internet as a fundamental part of life, a given, whereas for most of us, certainly for anybody my age, the internet is something that came along at some point in your life. 11, that generation whose upbringing has been dominated geopolitically by the events of 9/11. boomerang generation, the generation who leaves home and then comes back home, leaves home and comes back home. And I think this is related to the Japanese term. If there's anybody from Japan, I apologize in advance for how I'm about to pronounce this word, but parasaito shinguru, parasite singles, those who live off their parents as a kind of parasite. The Peter Pan generation, the generation that refuses to grow up and that in many ways indulges itself in young adulthood more than previous generations. The 700 euro generation. This refers to the minimum wage in, I believe, Spain. The minimum wage per month is 700 euros. I think maybe in France they might also be called the 1,000 euro generation for the same reason. The precarious generation, because of financial insecurity, financial and professional insecurity. And finally, generation flux, the generation that is experiencing a heightened amount of change. Any series aimed at these people needs to understand where they are and who they are. And I think the first thing we need to understand is their world. In their world, computer technology is the norm, entertainment is multi-channel and on-demand, and online global social networks are important. So any materials we use need to be taking that into account. Something else I read recently about people of this generation, photos have only ever been instant. Their concerns. These young adults are confident and want their voice to be heard in society, in education and at work, but traditional politics is less important. And they're facing an uncertain economic future. And finally, their needs. They need transferable skills because they're likely to change jobs and careers more and more. And English is increasingly needed for education, work and life. So it's this area of transferable skills that I want to explore a little bit more, that I want to use the term life skills to refer to this whole area. And I want to give you this, this definition, that life skills are the key skills you need to be effective in your work life, your academic life, and your social life. The idea is that we essentially operate in three main domains in our lives. We operate in our professional domain, our work and career area. We operate in a personal domain. This is where we're concerned with ourselves and with the society around us, with communities, however we define that, with ourselves as global citizens, and also our academic selves, our study, our learning, our lifelong learning. Now, of course, those are not necessarily completely separate areas, but it is useful to separate out those domains to consider what kind of skills are transferable across the domains. So the aim with life skills, what I want to do is I want to focus in on key skills, abilities, competencies that are important in all of those domains. And then I want to look at how they operate in those domains and get my students to develop those skills so that they can then apply them in a context. For example, let's take the skill of persuading others. Okay, that's a key life skill, a key communication skill, persuading other people. Now, at work, this is something that people need to do in meetings all the time. You need to persuade people to accept your point of view. You need to persuade people to do things. In your self and social life, the term social life is a bit misleading because it sounds like going out with your friends at the weekend. In fact, I think more properly, I want to call it societal life, your life as a member of society. Now, clearly, in any political campaigns you're involved in, any local action, any local communities, your ability to persuade people is fundamental. And in your study and learning domain, part of your critical thinking skills is your ability to construct arguments that persuade other people of your point of view. So each of these skills should be transferable across all these domains. People need to be prepared for flexible careers and need to develop the skills that employers value. This is the work and career domain. They need to develop autonomy and responsibility for their own learning in the study and learning domain. And they need to express themselves and find personal fulfillment in an increasingly connected global social world, self and society. So this is the aim through life skills. Everywhere you look, you get a sense, you see evidence that there is a mismatch between what the educational systems are producing and what employers want. This was a recent study by the University of Kent, and researchers there looked at multiple surveys of employers. And from these surveys, they extracted what they saw was common across these surveys. And they came to a list of the top 10 skills that employers want. Now, this is where I'm going to try and put you into groups, okay? Trust me, it's going to work. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create breakout rooms. You'll find yourself randomly assigned to a group of, let's say, I'll create groups of 10 people. Now in that group, you should find yourself in a chat room where you can chat just to the other members of your group. After about 5 minutes, I'll bring everybody back into the main room. That's the theory. Okay? Now, and when you're in your breakout room, what I'd like you to discuss is what you think is going to appear on this list of top 10 skills that employers want. Just try and come up with a handful that you think are going to appear on this list. Okay? Here we go. All right, I'm going to create the breakout rooms, and I'm going to divide you into groups of 10. It looks like you are in groups of 10. Is everybody back? Okay, everybody's back. Now, I have no idea whether that worked or not. Did you find yourself in a small group discussing that question? Ah, okay. One person says yes. Okay, let's call that a... all right, some people did. Some people did. Okay. All right, okay. Let's call that a partial success, shall we? So I can see that people now in the talking to yourself. Right? I can see that people now in the chat box are talking about things like creativity, about what else have you put there? Critical thinking. A huge delay. Okay. All right. Flexibility. All right. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at what the University of Kent found. Number one, verbal communication. Teamwork, commercial awareness. This is business acumen, a sense of how business works, analyzing, investigating, critical thinking skills, initiative and self-motivation, drive, written communication, planning, flexibility, and time management. So across multiple surveys, they found that these were the 10 things that employers value the most. They also found that these other things were important. Global skills refers to cross-cultural understanding, awareness, in professionalism. So in the domain of work and career, this is the kind of area that we want to be working with. I just want to give you a flavour of what kind of life skills we're talking about. An objection, and the objection is this: but I'm an English teacher. I teach English. What is all this stuff about teaching organizational skills and presentational skills and critical thinking skills? I'm an English teacher. This is my response to that objection and why I believe that we should all be focusing on life skills in our classrooms. Firstly, English is no longer enough. English just gets you in the game. David Graddle from the British Council, in English Next, published by the British Council, wrote, "As English becomes more generally available, little or no competitive advantage is gained by adopting it. Rather, it has become a new baseline. Without English, you're not even in the race." English just gets you on the starting line. Secondly, you saw from that list how communication skills are key, and that is the area where we excel as English teachers. It's all about teaching communication skills. Thirdly, many life skills are culturally and linguistically dependent. Things like active listening, things like being assertive, things like choosing the right register for different situations. All of these differ from culture to culture, and they differ from language to language. Our students need to learn how to activate those skills, how to execute those skills in English, and they also need to learn how to be sensitive and aware of the intercultural situations they're going to find them in, and that's our responsibility. And finally, it is the expertise that you already possess. As a successful professional, you do all these things anyway. As an effective citizen, you do these things anyway. As an effective student, you do or have done these things anyway. I might have shown this to some of you before, you might have seen this. This is a magazine that came out in 2002. It was Newsweek 2002. And they predicted what life was going to be like in 2012, which for them was 10 years in the future. And I thought this was intriguing, and I kept it because of this. They talked about emerging technologies. Things like 2005, electronic banking replaces cash in developed countries. Yeah, mostly I spend money using cash these days. And 2008, a majority of people use PDAs. Well, they hadn't foreseen the iPhone, but other than that, yes. And then here, look at this. 2010, translation software replaces foreign language teachers. As far as I know, that didn't happen. Why not is at the heart of the role that life skills play in our profession and in our teaching, I think. I do think that foreign language teachers are under some kind of threat from technology, or at least some of the roles are under threat from technology. The days of the English language teacher being the person who stands at the front of the class, defining words, explaining what things mean, being the expert on the language per se, those days are numbered, because there is a role for translation software, for teaching software that is going to undermine that. But what you bring to the classroom is your life skills. That is not under threat from technology, because that's a fundamental part of who you are and your relationship with your students and who they need to become. So I think this is only going to become more important in our teaching as time goes on. And we shouldn't be afraid of moving into that area or feel that we don't have the skills ourselves, because we do. You do. Okay, you might not have all of them. You might be really bad at managing your time. But you will have some of this set of skills, and you can help develop with your students the other skills that you need to work on yourself. I think this is going to become part of classrooms increasingly as time goes on. Everything is pointing in this direction. Language is a life skill. I'm very proud of the fact that it was the Mind series that came up with this tagline, and Macmillan, as a whole, has adopted it as part of their strategy of becoming the life skills publisher. So it was the Mind series that kicked this off. And language is, of course, underpinned by what we traditionally have taught, by the 4 language skills of reading, writing, listening, speaking, by grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation. Those are clearly at the core of what we do and what we will do. But we also need to be pointing outwards towards these areas where our students need to activate their language. They're in thinking and problem-solving situations, in terms of self-direction and learning, in terms of collaboration, information, and organization and planning. So that graphic gives you a kind of overview of where I want us to go with our teaching. Here's an example of one of these life skills spreads. The way it works in Mind is, in the Mind series, is that every unit ends with a double-page spread headed Life Skills. That takes one life skill, focuses on it in detail, and attempts to give the students as much as possible concrete steps to follow or concrete tools to use when performing that skill. So in this case, we're looking at the skill of evaluating different plans. Now, I like this one because on the surface, when you're asked to evaluate different plans, well, what you do is you look at each of those plans, you weigh them up, and you choose the one you like the best. But how do we get beyond that subjective idea of the one you like the best? We use what's called a decision matrix. So this whole spread is guiding students through how to use a decision matrix. Let me just grab a pointer. That one will do. So in exercise A, they decide, sorry, let me give you the context. This is an area that their local council is going to develop. And there are 3 different plans, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, for how it will develop. So first of all, I asked them to decide what is important to their local community. Jobs, clean air, shopping facilities. So they choose which factors are important. I think they choose 4 from these 8. And then they look at each plan. I test their understanding of the plans. And then in this matrix, they decide how each plan will affect each factor. And they give it a score from -2 to +2. So let's say jobs, they might decide that Plan A will have some effect on jobs, and they give it a score of +1. They work their way through the table, adding that all up, and then it gives them the total under the columns. The one with the highest total is objectively the plan that has most impact on the factors that are most important. So this is called a decision matrix. So that gives you some sense of how I want to work with these life skills. I don't want it to be too, it can sound a little bit wishy-washy sometimes, that we're going to teach them how to be better people. Well, I guess that is partly the aim, but that's too amorphous. We need specific steps and specific tools that we can give them. This is a good example of a specific tool used for a very definite life skill of evaluating different plans. One more quick one that I'm going to show you before we look at some of the online stuff. This is another life skill with the skill of active listening. And this is about maintaining eye contact. It's about echoing people's words back to them. It's about asking good questions that encourage further conversation. And so what they do is they analyze and they learn about active listening. They listen to a conversation and listen to language that is involved in active listening. And then in groups, they get to do some activities together, and they reflect on and they assess themselves and they assess their peers on this life skill of active listening. So that's just to give you, I just wanted to give you 2 examples so that you can kind of see different approaches, really. Okay, I'm going to try and share an application with you now. Again, this is something that I haven't done before on this platform, but I hope you can share my browser. Can you all see that? Give me a second. Okay, I think it should be there now. Is it appearing? Can you see my Firefox web browser? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, we're getting some yeses. Those of you who live further away, it might take a bit longer to get through the internet pipes to wherever you are. All right, for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so, I'm just going to show you some of the aspects of the website and the digital resources that accompany Mind Online, just to give you a flavor of how they can be used, particularly to reinforce the life skills teaching. The first thing you get when, this is what you can see, what I should explain is how you access it. When a student buys OpenMind, they get a card in the back with a code number on it. That's their student access. And there's a whole part of the website that students can access and you can access as a teacher. But then as a teacher, in the back of the teacher's book, you get a different teacher access code, and that enables you to access the student area and the teacher area and everything. So what you do is when you decide to use the course, you log in and you activate your login, and then that's valid for a certain time from then on. I think for students it's valid for a year, for teachers it's valid for 3 years, something like that. Okay, so if you go along and before you log in, before you register rather, you can go along and you can learn about the series. There's some tips from authors. I won't show you those because you've got me talking to you now, but there's some tips from authors there. There's a brief guide to what you've got. I'm going to actually go into the website and show you what's there. I'm just going to click on this Skills for Life. Now this gives you an overview of these life skills that I've been talking about. You can see here, if I click on OpenMind 1 Life Skills, then the PDF appears in my browser. And this is an example of a life skill from the first level, from OpenMind 1. The first level is Essentials, OpenMind 1, the first main level. And this is about establishing priorities. What you need to do there is understand the criteria, list the options, and then order the options according to the criteria. So this is you can go along yourself and have a look at this, and it'll give you a good sense of how the life skills work. I'm just going to go back now. Okay, and we're going to go to, I'm going to log in. That's what I'm going to do. So now you're getting to see what you would see if you were registered. And along the top, you can see there are the various levels of OpenMind and Mastermind. And down here, well, let me click on one. I'm going to actually look at an example from one unit of OpenMind 3. I'm going to look at OpenMind 3 Unit 10. Okay. First of all, one thing you get, I like this. This isn't directly life skills, but I will quickly show you this, and I hope this works across the application, application sharing on this platform. Animated grammar presentations. Each unit has 2 grammar sections, and for each grammar section, there's a pop-up animated grammar explanation and reinforcement. So I'll just show you that for you. This is level 3, OpenMind 3, Unit 10. And here, the grammar for Unit 10 is subject-relative clauses. Okay, let's see what happens when we click on that. The animated grammar presentation sets a context. If you want a special night out, where do you go? I go to the pub. Okay, we've discussed that. Now, here is a conversation between 2 people. Now, as it plays, you can see that certain elements are highlighted. Now, those are the target grammar. Here's another 2 examples. These are subject-relative clauses. Okay, let's go back to this concept check. I can check what I've studied, my understanding of what I've studied in my student's book. And when I look at language use, the important elements are highlighted for me with a brief explanation. And then I get to see more examples, and I can click through until I'm confident that I understand. Okay, so for each grammar point, there's a grammar animation similar to that. Okay. Now, as you can see from the pop-out menu there's lots of reviews and of the vocabulary and the grammar and the language in the unit. But with the time left, oh, there are also videos. I'm not going to bring those up now because I think I'd break the internet if I tried to show you videos from within my browser. One of the student resources, I did want to just show you this. This is interesting. One of the student resources is the Common European Framework Checklists. For Unit 10, it looks like this. Students you can guide your students through self-assessment of what they are doing in that unit, and this builds up into a record of areas of strength and areas where they need to perhaps do some remedial work. The class and the workbook audio. Now, the print resources. I'll just briefly mention the e-planner. There's so much here. The e-planner is a separate section where you can go in and put in what's important to you and your students out of the whole course. Where do you want the emphasis to fall? Do you want it to fall on grammar? How many hours have you got? How much grammar do you want to focus on? How much vocabulary, reading, writing, language skills, life skills, the openers to the units, all the features of the book. You can click to decide where you want the emphasis to fall in your teaching, and the e-planner will then create lesson plans for you throughout the whole year. Very interesting tool. But for life skills, what I really wanted to look at was this, additional life skills lessons. Remember I was talking about 3 domains, the work and career domain, study and learning, and self and society. Now, because of the limits of print, we can only work with one of those domains in the book. So if I turn to this is book 3, unit 10, the life skill there is one of the key life skills, teamwork, or working as part of a team, which is a collaboration skill. Now, the topic of this unit is stage and screen. It's all about acting, theatre, film, performance, entertainment, and so that's the context for this life skills work. It's a self and society context. They're working as part of a drama group essentially, and so it's about how they act as a team. We get them to reflect on how they are as a team member, and the context is that they're working together to create a short drama presentation. So that's a self and society context. But remember, this skill is transferable. So I also want to do some practice in the other domains. That's what this additional life skills lessons is about. If we look at the additional life skill lesson for Unit 10, which comes up as a PDF that you can then print out. This additional life skill lesson is now in the work and career domain. So what they're going to do, if you look at where it says objective, what they're going to do is practice this soft skill in a professional context, working as a team to design and promote a new cell phone. So this is a whole separate life skills lesson that activates the skill in a different domain. And for every one, there's resources like this online for every life skill. Finally, the other thing, the other thing I wanted to show you here was resource activities. No. Well, I've clicked on it now. So, I mean, what the resource activities does is that's extra teaching material to extend the topics and the themes of the unit. But what I really wanted to show you was actually the monthly reading e-lessons. These are uploaded to the website regularly and provide you with a whole lesson based on a reading, which then leads into a life skills project. So here, let me go back up to the top. So here, at an intermediate level, here's a reading lesson. It's about the power of perception. They've got a text, and they basically have a lesson built around this text with comprehension and lead-in and vocabulary. And then we're into the life skills project. Now here, it's focusing on the skills of persuading others and of thinking creatively. Now these are two skills that they've done before. Persuading others was earlier in this level, and thinking creatively was at the end of the previous level. So it serves partly as a revision of things that they've done up to this point. And so it guides them through selling bread, being persuasive, thinking about target audience and design. They need to design a logo and a slogan and present their logo to the class with lots of reflection on how they do it, and detailed notes for you on guiding them through this project. So the life skills is much more than just what appears on the page in the student's book. It's also extra practice that appears online. It's also the life skills projects that appear online as part of the monthly e-readings. Okay, I'll tell you what, I think now I'm going to try and return to I'm going to try and stop application sharing now, which I do by doing okay. Everybody should be back now looking at my final slide. Yes, great. All right. So, I'm happy to discuss any questions or any, they don't have to be questions. If you'd like to make any comments in the chat room about whether you agree, totally disagree, or what you think, where you think the emphasis is wrong, I'm happy to open it up to comments in the chat room. I'd just like to present you with this quote from Malcolm Stevenson Forbes, an American publisher, who said that education's purpose is to replace an empty mind with an open one. So that's what we hope to achieve through Open Mind. I should also mention that this is a very exciting time for the Mind series, because we're going into a new edition, so there's lots of new features coming, big plans. So I hope that at some point I'll be back to speak to, I'll be over to speak to some of you soon in person. Already next year I'm going to Russia, so I'll be seeing people there in Russia. I've just been invited to Italy. I'm going to Lithuania. Where else am I going? Brazil. So I hope to see some of you in person, and I'm sure I'll see some of you again online. All right, I think I've kind of finished now. How would we like to do questions? If you've got any questions, why don't you tap them in the chat box? I can't guarantee that I'll be able to answer all of them, but I might be able to answer some of them. And if you like, at the top left, you can press that. This is part of your webinar skill development. At the top left, there's a button, and you can press applause. You can press that now.